A young woman sits on a chair in front of a police officer. She looks exhausted, drained, and defeated. Police officer: Miss, I understand that you've been scammed out of your money, but unfortunately, you're not the only victim. This scheme has affected many people. Young woman: But when will I get my money back? I have nowhere else to go. Police officer: The investigation is ongoing. We'll inform you if there's any progress. She slowly stands up and leaves the station, staring at her phone with empty eyes. She stands outside the police station, replaying the past few moments in her head. Young woman, muttering to herself, how did this even happen to me? She lifts her phone and dials a friend. Young woman, on the phone. There are so many victims, not just me. Friend on the other end. What? Have you filed a case? Where are you now? Young woman, I'm in front of the police station. What should I do? I feel so stupid. Friend, come over to my place. At the very least, let me buy you a meal so we can talk. She stands in front of the station, gripping her phone tightly. The night air is cold, and the distant sound of cars passing by fills the silence. Her voice trembles slightly. Young woman, are you really sure it's okay for me to come over? I really appreciate this. I'm sorry, I keep depending on you. A short pause. Her eyes glisten with unshed tears, her face flushed with emotion. She tries to hold it together but is on the verge of breaking down. Friend, on the phone. Hey, don't apologize. It's nothing. But what about work tomorrow? Should I talk to the team leader for you? Quickly, nervously. No, I'll handle it myself. Thank you. She hangs up, staring at her phone before sighing deeply. She starts walking slowly, lost in thought, thinking. Of course, things would be easier if Hyunwoo spoke up. He's the CEO of the company, after all. She walks down the quiet street, her head lowered. Her mind drifts, not to her own past, but to his. A memory surfaces, Hyunwoo, in his early 20s, stepping off a plane in the US, eyes filled with determination. Years ago, Hyunwoo moved to America. With his older brother and a few colleagues, they developed a game that became a global sensation. Now he's a famous developer, managing the game development division at. She looks down at her phone while walking, her mind still trapped in memories. He's been my childhood friend for 15 years. Compared to him, I'm just a regular employee who barely started working. She remembers when she first joined the company and carelessly mentioned knowing Hyunwoo. The rumors had spread like wildfire. Since then she had been careful. Suddenly her worn-out slipper slips off and she stumbles, falling onto the pavement, muttering to herself, I really need to throw away these cheap slippers. She looks up from the ground and sees a sleek, expensive car parked nearby. The owner steps out, a tall man in an elegant suit, his strikingly handsome features almost sculpted. He looks down at her with a neutral expression. Man. Puppy? She blinks in confusion. Man, are you really walking your puppy without a leash? That's dangerous. Still puzzled, pointing at her lost slipper. Are you talking about my slipper? The man follows the direction of her finger, hesitating for a moment. Man, thinking. Who names their dog Slipper? But then he spots the slipper on the ground and frowns, irritated. He bends down, picks it up. You don't have to pick it up for me. Before she can finish, he casually tosses it toward a nearby trash bin, but misses. Stunned. What? Man, expression unchanging. It was blocking the way. It just happened to land near the trash can. Man, straightens his suit. Be more careful in the future. It could lead to an accident, don't you think? She just stares at him, dumbfounded. Young woman, thinking. No. It was your ridiculous misunderstanding that made you stop your car in the first place. Is everything just about looking good for you? She squints, suddenly feeling like she's seen him somewhere before. Wait a minute. Have we met before? He chuckles, a small smirk appearing on his lips. Man. If that's your flirting line, it's a bit
Cliché, don't you think? She gapes at him, utterly confused. He turns away, heading back to his car. Man, I don't have time for pointless small talk. Have a good night. She watches as he drives away, frustration boiling inside her, thinking, did he seriously think I was flirting with him? Still fuming, she gets on a bus, staring at her destroyed puppy slipper, and thinking, how can someone be so rude? Just because he's rich, he thinks he can treat people like that? She sighs, thinking, well, I can't deny I envy his wealth right now. She arrives at a large house and knocks on the door, mumbling to herself, muttering, why does a single person need a house this big? The door opens. She starts to call for Hyunwoo but freezes in shock. Standing in front of her is the rude stranger from earlier. Both of them stare at each other, equally bewildered. Man, are you a stalker? Offended, still trying to process the situation. Excuse me? Man, calmly. Well, who else would be a stalker here besides you, coming all the way to someone's house like this? Is this about what happened earlier? No, I should be the one asking you. Before she can finish, another voice comes from behind him. Hyunwoo. Bro, why are you just standing there? Wait, isn't that Yoon-seo? The man in the doorway stays silent, grinning. It's freezing outside. Come in. Yoon-seo stands at the doorstep, her mind spinning in chaos. Then realization hits her like a wave. Whispers in shock, Jungwoo?
Hyunwoo and Yoon-seo have been friends since childhood and are the same age. They became close in elementary school and have stuck together ever since. This year marks their 15th year of friendship. Time sure flies quickly. Hyunwoo was popular from a young age, and he had an older brother who was just as well known. However, popularity and good manners don't always go hand in hand. Congratulations on your graduation, 223, Yoon-seo heard from behind her. She turned around and saw Jungwoo. Thank you, but why 223? She asked, confused. In the second semester of the final exam, out of 247 third-year students, the one who ranked 223 left this at my house. If you were trying to surprise me, you succeeded. It's such an unusual number that I think I'll remember it for a long time. She blushed, feeling a mix of emotions. Even back then, he was tall and handsome. Other girls referred to him as the perfect human. But to her, he was just someone who couldn't even remember other people's names. To be honest, he was quite annoying. Now in the present, they sat at the table, two brothers in front of a girl whose world had just turned upside down. It's been almost 10 years, right? Go on, say hi. Hyunwoo nudged. Heh. Hello, Yoon-seo said awkwardly. The situation felt a bit weird, but now she understood why he had looked so familiar. He hadn't changed at all, still as tall and handsome as ever. It's been a while, 223, Jungwoo said in a calm voice. Well, at least you're not a stalker, so that's a relief. Hyunwoo, not understanding the situation, kept switching his gaze between them. So, Hyunwoo, you want this kid to stay here for a while? Jungwoo asked his brother. Yoon-seo, still trying to grasp what was happening, blinked in confusion. Are you saying I'll be staying here? Hyunwoo, that's a bit... A firm voice suddenly echoed through the space. I'm against it. I get extremely uncomfortable when someone invades my personal space. She didn't know what to say or do in that situation. Jungwoo was already throwing out alternatives like lending her money, which was out of the question. It's okay. I'll figure something out on my own. Thanks for at least offering, Hyunwoo, she said. The two brothers glared at each other. Yoon-seo starts work tomorrow and there's nowhere suitable for her to stay, Hyunwoo said firmly. Jungwoo turned to Yoon-seo. Get a grip. How far are you planning to take responsibility for her? Are you her mom? Jungwoo didn't trust her. Yes, she was his old schoolmate, but those times were long gone. She came to you instead of her parents, knowing full well that you're wealthy. Doesn't that seem suspicious to you? Yoon-seo was taken aback. I guess Hyunwoo didn't tell you. Well, it makes sense. You were abroad in America when my parents had a car accident while traveling. And just as you said, he cannot take responsibility. I got scammed, not him. I have no intention of being a burden because of this. I just wanted to see a friend's face in difficult times, that's all. So I'd appreciate it if you refrained from saying things like that. Silence filled the room as they stared at each other. Later, Yoon-seo and Hyunwoo stood on the rooftop terrace. He was apologizing for his brother's behavior. Even for Hyunwoo, it was strange that Jungwoo was being so sensitive. For Yoonseo, however, it was understandable. He probably felt uncomfortable. Anyway, Yoonseo, look closely. I cleaned up here today so it's tidy. It might be annoying to go up and down the stairs, but there's a separate bathroom so you can use it just for yourself, Hyunwoo said, still trying to convince her to stay. I know it's an incredibly generous offer, given the situation, but I can't repay this. No matter how close we are, this just feels like too much, she admitted, feeling guilty. Hyunwoo reminded her of their middle school days when he had struggled alone, on the verge of going down the wrong path. She had stuck by him even when he was annoying and had looked out for him. He had been grateful for her support back then and had made a promise to himself that he would repay her someday. But when her parents passed away in high school, she hadn't said anything. She hadn't wanted to burden him, knowing he had exams coming up. What she didn't know was how much guilt that had placed on him back then. Jungwoo was standing by the door, listening to their conversation. Until you find another place, I'll allow you to stay here. But I'll definitely charge you rent, he said. That irritated Yoonseo. Okay, I'll definitely pay it, she replied, making Hyunwoo smile, relieved that it had finally worked out. How is it that Jungwoo Appa hasn't changed at all? She muttered, annoyed. She already knew it was going to be difficult to get along with him. He's smart enough to remember my 3-digit ranking, so why the heck won't he use my name? Why should I be nice to someone like that? She grumbled. Watching the sunset over the city, Hyunwoo just stood there unable to answer. Well, don't worry about it. He's the landlord's brother. Even if he's not friendly, he won't pick a fight. Besides, I'll just avoid him as much as possible while I'm here, okay? She said with a smile. Well, that's what she thought. She had no idea what his real reason was for returning to the city. She found out the next day at the office, when Jungwoo walked in and introduced himself as the new head of the department. As Han Yoonseo was tying up her hair, she heard someone calling her name. Stepping out to the stairs, she asked Hyunwoo if it was him. He nodded and offered her a ride to work. She hesitated for a moment, wondering what would happen if someone saw them together. Rumors could easily spread within the company. Noticing her hesitation, Hyunwoo reassured her. If you're worried about rumors, I can drop you off near the office instead, he said with a knowing smile. Yoonseo couldn't help, but smiled back and agreed. On the way, Hyunwoo casually mentioned that his brother had left early that morning. A wave of relief washed over Yoonseo. At least she wouldn't have to run into him first thing in the morning. Last night, standing on the rooftop, Yoonseo and Hyunwoo watched the sun setting over the city. The warm hues painted the sky as they talked. How can someone stay exactly the same after 15 years? Yoonseo wondered aloud. I doubt he's ever had a proper relationship with that attitude. She reassured Hyunwoo, telling him there was no need to worry. She would avoid his brother as much as possible. Just then, a voice came from behind. Oh, you really think it's going to be that easy? Yoonseo froze. Turning around, she found herself face to face with Jungwoo. He hadn't left. Panic crept into her voice. How much did you hear? Jungwoo smirked. From the beginning? Without waiting for an answer, he leaned in slightly. Well, good luck avoiding me, he said, his voice dripping with amusement. The present back at the office, Yoonseo replayed last night's conversation in her head. She needed a solid plan to avoid Jungwoo at home. A strong, steady voice suddenly filled the office. As long as I'm here, I will strive to bring out the full potential of each individual. Yoonseo blinked in confusion. That voice, it sounded familiar. She turned her head and saw her coworkers whispering, their eyes fixed on the new director. He's really good-looking, isn't he? One of them gushed, and then it hit her. This was why Jungwoo had told her to try her best to avoid him. Snapped. Out of her thoughts, Yoonseo heard her colleague calling her name. You've been spacing out a lot. Did you finish moving in? You said you'd invite us over for a housewarming party. Yoonseo forced a smile and nodded. She had bragged about it so much last week, there was no way she could admit she had been scammed. Her colleague then brought up the new director. He's Hyunwoo's brother, right? Do you know him? Before Yoonseo could answer, the new director, Jungwoo, started walking toward them. She stiffened as her colleague introduced herself. Graphic designer Yoon Ji-young, nice to meet you. Jungwoo responded with a polite nod before his gaze landed on Eun-seo. Han Eun-seo, Hyunwoo's friend. Nice to meet you. Eun-seo felt her face heat up. She had no idea how to react. Ji-young, noticing her pale expression, raised an eyebrow. Did something happen between you two? Eun-seo quickly shook her head. I don't remember. But her mind was spinning. It was the first time Jungwoo had ever called her by her first name, and he had definitely heard everything she said last night. Called to his office later that day, while Eun-seo was at her desk, she was suddenly summoned to Jungwoo's office. She panicked. Had she done something wrong? As she walked through the office, whispers followed her. The rumors had already started. Stepping into the room, she saw Jungwoo sitting at his desk. Without a word, he lifted his hand slightly. Was he waving her over, or was he just messing with her? Annoyed, Eun-seo turned to leave, but Jungwoo's voice stopped her. Come here. Reluctantly, she approached his desk. You have a bit of a quirky side, he said casually. That only irritated her more, though she tried to hide it. But to her surprise, Jungwoo continued. I reviewed your work. It's quite good. Eun-seo blinked. Did he just compliment her? He then gave her a few detailed suggestions, and she had to admit, they were spot on. Despite it being his first day, he was already this sharp. She had expected him to summon her just to pick a fight, but his feedback was actually precise. Lost. In thought, she barely registered his next words. What do you think? Jungwoo asked. Huh? His expression didn't change. About the fact that someone you wanted to avoid at all costs is now your director. She had no words. He leaned back slightly. Matters of work can go through the team leader, but I wanted to hear your thoughts directly. His smirk deepened. Now that we'll be seeing each other at work and at home, are you still sure you can avoid me? Eun-seo's face burned with frustration and embarrassment. After work outside the office, Eun-seo stormed up to Hyunwoo. Why didn't you tell me your brother was becoming the division director? Hyunwoo grinned. Because if I did, you wouldn't have come to work? Eun-seo glared at him. You're the worst. He shrugged. Jungwoo wanted to be more involved in company matters because of upcoming projects and deadlines. Still fuming, she muttered a curse under her breath. Hyunwoo laughed. You know, he's right behind you. Eun-seo froze. Turning around slowly, she realized Hyunwoo was just messing with her. Her glare sharpened. Do that again, and it'll cost you your life. All she wanted now was to go home. But Hyunwoo wasn't done. Did you read the company news? He asked, still smirking. She frowned. No, why? Tonight is the company dinner to welcome the new director. Eun-seo froze again. Just when she thought she could finally escape him, she had to face Jungwoo again. The bar was buzzing with laughter and clinking glasses. Everyone seemed more cheerful than usual, the air thick with excitement and the bitter scent of beer. Eun-seo sat quietly, sipping her drink, her gaze drifting over her colleagues as they enjoyed themselves. This vibe is so different tonight, she thought, surprised at how lively the atmosphere was. It's definitely because of the new chairman, one of the girls giggled, leaning in with a sly grin. He's so good-looking. Honestly, he's got this whole cool and distant vibe going for him. They're brothers, but they couldn't be more different, another chimed in. Hyunwoo's warm and easygoing, but the director, he's cold, mysterious. Eun-seo shifted uncomfortably, trying to keep her expression neutral. She could feel the attention slowly turning toward her. Hey, Ji-young said, eyes narrowing mischievously. Didn't Director Jungwoo call you into his office the other day? One of the girls gasped. Seriously? Just because they're brothers doesn't mean you have to get close to him too, Eun-seo. He only gave me feedback on my work, Eun-seo replied quickly, waving it off. As Manager Lee said, them being brothers doesn't automatically mean, I know both of them. We're not close. Ji-young sighed in disappointment, clearly hoping for some juicy drama. Eun-seo's thoughts wandered. She remembered standing in Jungwoo's office, feeling the weight of his eyes on her, the cold tone of his words. She had told her colleagues nothing happened, but honestly, not talking to him at all might have been even better. Feeling the pressure from their prying eyes and teasing smiles, Yoonseo downed her drink a little too quickly. The alcohol hit harder than expected. And soon she found herself outside, leaning against the wall, her thoughts swirling. "That man is weird," she muttered under her breath, staring up at the night sky. Her mind drifted to high school, to another time when Jungwoo had acted strangely. But back then, just like now, no one cared. His looks seemed to excuse everything. As the cool night air sobered her up slightly, she sighed and tried to head back inside. But just as she took a step, her heel caught between the wooden boards of the deck. She stumbled and fell hard, cheeks burning with embarrassment. "Ugh, great," she grumbled, brushing herself off and walking back in, only to freeze as she saw Jungwoo standing there watching her. Later, Eun-seo sat on a bench, holding her head in her hands as the room spun around her. "Yoonseo, are you okay?" Hyunwoo's gentle voice cut through the haze. "I'm fine. I just need to rest for a bit," she replied weakly, waving him off. Hyunwoo looked worried, stepping closer, but in her drunken state, Yoonseo managed to elbow him in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him. "Oof, okay," he gasped, holding up his hands. Before he could try again, their colleagues dragged him away, pulling him into another round of drinks. From her corner, Yoonseo watched the crowd dance and laugh. Miss Ji-young and Manager Lee still have so much energy. "I'd love to go home, but I don't want to kill the mood," she thought, sighing. Suddenly, she felt a presence beside her. She turned her head slowly and blinked. Jungwoo was standing there. Without a word, he removed his coat and gently draped it over her lap. She stared at him, confused. "I don't need—" Then she noticed it. Her skirt, torn from the fall. Her face turned scarlet. "Thank you," she whispered. Jungwoo's brow furrowed. "Is it normal for you to have such poor self-control? A woman your age should know her limits." Her embarrassment turned to irritation. "That's none of your business. Whether I drink myself into oblivion or not, it has nothing to do with you." "What if something happened to you on the way home?" he shot back. "Would you know how to deal with it? Take better care of yourself." His words hit a nerve. Yoonseo's eyes narrowed. Fueled by alcohol and frustration, she grabbed him by the tie, pulling him closer until their faces were inches apart. "You are so annoying," she hissed into his ear. The room went silent. All eyes were on them, confused and intrigued. Hyunwoo stood frozen, unsure whether to intervene. Jungwoo didn't flinch. "Do you really enjoy bothering me?" Yoonseo leaned back slightly. "I admit I was wrong yesterday, but you weren't completely right either. Why are you always acting like some self-righteous prick?" Her eyes flicked over his face. "I get it. You're good-looking, so you think you can get away with anything." She suddenly placed a finger on his lips. "If you just stayed quiet like this, you'd be perfect." Jungwoo blinked, clearly flustered. "If I stay quiet and act like a gentleman, would that make me your type?" Yoonseo met his gaze, smirking. Maybe." Then her face twisted. Her stomach churned. "Oh no," she murmured, clamping her hand over her mouth. Ji-young's eyes widened. "Wait. Yoonseo, are you—" Too late. Before anyone could react, Yoonseo lurched forward, and Jungwoo's expensive suit bore the brunt of the aftermath. Yoonseo stirred, her head pounding and heavy as if bricks had been stacked inside her skull. Her eyes fluttered open, squinting at the unfamiliar ceiling above. Panic rose in her chest. "Where am I?" She sat up slowly, her vision swimming. Her clothes clung uncomfortably to her skin. The same outfit from yesterday. Her mind was a blank canvas, smeared only with fragments she couldn't piece together. Anxiety tightened in her chest. Did I black out? She scanned the room, clean, bright, and oddly homey. Then she heard a faint clatter from nearby. Cautiously, she stepped out of the room and followed the scent of something warm and savory. In the kitchen, Hyunwoo stood at the stove stirring, a pot with focused ease. Yoonso's voice was barely a whisper, laced with unease. "Good morning." Hyunwoo turned, smiling warmly. "Morning. Feeling any better? Did you sleep well?" Relief washed over her. His calm, friendly tone felt normal. Nothing seemed out of place. No weird tension. Maybe I didn't do anything. Embarrassing after all. Yoonso walked over, glancing at the bubbling pot. "You're amazing, Hyunwoo. Seriously. You cook? You clean? Someone needs to marry you already," he chuckled, shaking his head. "Hard to do when you're single." Yoonseo laughed softly, but suddenly the world began to spin again. Her breath hitched as flashes from last night flickered in her mind. Blurry, scattered memories, Hyunwoo carrying her on his back, smiling, heroic. The ideal man. She sighed dreamily. He must have carried me home. So kind, so reliable. Her fantasy popped like a soap bubble when Hyunwoo casually said, "Hey, can you wake up Jungwoo? Breakfast is almost ready." Yoonseo froze. "Jungwoo? Me? Sure." The last thing she wanted was to face him after a blackout, but under pressure she nodded reluctantly. As she approached the guest room door, dread coiled in her stomach. Not from the hangover, but the memory of Jungwoo's sharp gaze and sharp tongue. She raised her hand to knock. Slam. The door flew open. Startled, Yoonseo lost her balance and tumbled to the floor with a yelp. Blinking up, she froze. Jungwoo stood over her in just sweatpants, his toned upper body on full display. Her face turned crimson. "I wasn't peeking. Hyunwoo sent me. Breakfast, it's ready." Her words came out in a rushed jumble. Jungwoo chuckled and offered his hand. "You okay? Didn't hit anything, did you? Be more careful." His gentle tone only made her more flustered. She took his hand and got to her feet, her eyes darting away. Later, after breakfast, Yoonseo gathered the dishes. "I'll take care of these," she offered, trying to busy herself and avoid eye contact. As she rinsed plates, she glanced over her shoulder. "Why are you still here anyway?" Jungwoo leaned against the counter. "Because I live here?" He smirked. "And you're not the housekeeper, by the way." Yoonseo's face heated up again. She had meant to nag him, but now she just felt awkward. Then Jungwoo's voice softened. "By the way, stop calling me director. When we're home, just call." "Me, Jungwoo." Her eyes widened. Why is he suddenly being so normal? She glanced at him, confused. Jungwoo caught her stare. "What's with that look?" he teased. "Is your stomach acting up again?" Yoonseo blinked. "What? No, I'm just..." She paused. "Why are you being nice all of a sudden?" He raised an eyebrow. "Isn't this what you wanted? You said I always pick fights and rely on my looks to get away with things." She stared blankly. "I said..." "What? You don't remember?" He smirked. "Drunk words are honest words, Yoonseo." Her mind went blank. She didn't remember saying anything like that. Her heart pounded in panic. Flashback. Last night. The night air was chilly as Jungwoo trudged up the stairs. Yoonseo slung over his back like a sack of rice. "These stairs are the worst." She mumbled into his shoulder, giggling. "Hyunwoo, you're the best. Carry me faster." Jungwoo gritted his teeth. "I'm not Hyunwoo," he muttered. "Seriously, I carry you all the way here and you can't even get my name right." Finally reached the apartment, dropping her onto the bed with a sigh. His back ached, and he ran a hand through his hair, exhausted. "You should at least wash up before sleeping," he muttered. As he turned to leave, Yoonseo's hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. She tugged him back and suddenly pulled him onto the bed, right into her lap. "What the..." Jungwoo stared at her, stunned. In a soft, sleepy voice, she murmured, "You nag too much. What do I have to do to shut your mouth?" Yoonseo was sitting on Jungwoo's lap, her finger gently pressed against his lips, their faces mere inches apart. With a teasing glint in her eye, she asked him if there was any way to block that mouth of his. Jungwoo smiled, amused, and asked. Her in return how she planned to do that. She leaned in closer, suddenly squeezed his lips shut with both hands, and shouted, "You're so annoying!" Jungwoo blinked in surprise. He clearly hadn't expected that. Still holding his face, Yoonseo's tone softened as she sighed. What a waste of such a pretty face. If only it weren't for this mouth, you'd be the perfect man. With that, she slipped off his lap and collapsed onto the bed. Jungwoo reached over and poked her forehead, chuckling lightly. "Go to sleep, will you? Don't wake up tomorrow." With even more regrets. Suddenly, Yoonseo snapped back to reality, eyes wide, heart pounding. The memory from last night hit her like a train. Standing in front of Jungwoo now, she stammered, "Woo, was it you? Who carried me home?" Jungwoo nodded with a calm expression. "Yeah, I had to carry you through 5 subway stations." He sighed, half laughing. "I tried calling a taxi, but someone kept trying to throw up. It was a mess." Yoonseo groaned, holding her head in both hands. Unable to believe what she was hearing, Jungwoo raised an eyebrow, looking at her with mild amusement. "Is it too much to ask for a bit of kindness, after everything I did for you last night?" Her eyes welled up with tears, her face burning with embarrassment. "Yes," she muttered, barely audible, then thought to herself, "I'm completely screwed." Later that morning, Yoonseo arrived at the office and was immediately greeted by her concerned colleagues. Seeing her safe and sound, they expressed relief. "We're glad the director took good care of you," one of them said kindly. Yoonseo blushed and nodded, trying to stay composed. "Was I a nuisance yesterday?" Manager Lee opened her mouth, ready to deliver the harsh truth. But Ji-young quickly covered her lips and intervened. "Don't worry about it, Yoonseo. Stuff like that happens. No big deal." Her words were meant to comfort, but Yoonseo still felt uneasy, the discomfort from last night lingering in her chest. Just then, a familiar voice greeted the office. She turned and saw Hyunwoo and Jungwoo entering together, both seemingly unbothered despite the heavy drinking the night before. "You guys held up well," Hyunwoo said cheerfully. Yoonseo smiled and greeted them. "Did you get home safe?" Hyunwoo asked. "I did, thank you," Yoonseo replied, then turned to Jungwoo with sincere eyes. "Thank you. For yesterday." Jungwoo didn't even glance at her. Eyes glued to the papers in his hands, he walked past her in silence. A short while later, Yoonseo found herself venting to Hyunwoo. "Your brother? What's his problem?" "He completely ignored me this morning." Hyunwoo shrugged casually. "He's always like that. Probably wasn't ignoring you on purpose, he's just cold." His nonchalant answer only irritated Yoonseo more. "Well, I didn't ask him to take me home, you know." That caught Hyunwoo off guard. "Wait, you don't remember last night?" Yoonseo blinked, puzzled. "Remember what?" Flashback. Last night, Yoonseo, drunk and unsteady, sat beside Jungwoo and pleaded, "Let's go home." Jungwoo, startled, asked, "Why would I go home with you?" In her drunken haze, she nearly blurted out that they lived together, but Jungwoo quickly stopped her, and Hyunwoo jumped in to cover. "They live in the same neighborhood," Hyunwoo told the others. Jungwoo agreed to take her home, and Eunseyo, thrilled, clung to his arm as they left together. Back to present, snapping back to reality, Eunseyo's mind reeled. The memories were slowly fitting together like puzzle pieces. He only helped me, and I gave him such a hard time. Her face flushed with shame. Determined to salvage at least a shred of dignity, she decided to apologize. Standing in front of Jungwoo's office, Yoonseo took a deep breath and knocked. No response. The room seemed empty. She cautiously stepped inside, placed a small gift and a handwritten note on his desk, and was about to leave when voices echoed from the hallway. Jungwoo and the team leader were coming. Her heart sank. "I'm doomed." Panicking, she ducked under Jungwoo's desk, holding her breath. Moments later, Jungwoo entered, unaware of her presence. He sat down, flipping through papers. Outside the office, the team leader called his name. Yoonseo, startled by the sudden sound, gasped, and pop! A button from her shirt flew off. Jungwoo froze, his senses alert. Something was definitely not right. As he continued talking to the team leader, he glanced down and saw Yoonseo hiding under his desk, Yoonso sat under Jungwoo's desk, looking up at him with worry. Jungwoo, surprised to see her there, whispered, "What are you doing here?" Before she could answer, his team leader interrupted, asking about the documents he had requested. Blushing, Yoonseo listened to their conversation, her anxiety growing. If the team leader discovered her hiding under Jungwoo's desk, the situation would become incredibly complicated. Suddenly, Jungwoo felt a soft touch on his knee. He glanced down and saw Yoonseo pleading with her eyes, silently begging for his help. Annoyed, Jungwoo sighed but reluctantly agreed to play along. The team leader sensed something was off, but assumed Jungwoo was just overwhelmed by the responsibilities he had taken on since joining. Trying to stay composed, Jungwoo found the documents and handed them over, making Yoonseo sigh in relief. However, as the team leader reviewed the papers, he pointed out a few issues that needed to be discussed. Jungwoo, already irritated, wasn't in the mood for a long conversation, but was persuaded when the team leader assured him it wouldn't take much time. He reluctantly agreed, insisting on a quick resolution. Meanwhile, Yoonseo remained under the desk, replaying the situation, in her mind, wondering how things had escalated so far. Anxiety built up inside her as the conversation continued. She couldn't understand how Jungwoo remained so calm while she was struggling just to stretch her legs. Just then, her stomach growled. Jungwoo stiffened, and the team leader immediately asked if he was feeling unwell. Jungwoo quickly dismissed it, but beneath the desk, Yoonseo sat frozen, now squeezed between his legs. When Jungwoo glanced down at her again, there was clear irritation in his eyes. The team leader, still unconvinced, hesitated before finally dropping the subject. After some time, the team leader thanked Jungwoo for his help, mentioning that he had really saved him. Jungwoo only nodded and said he needed to make an urgent call. As soon as the team leader left, Jungwoo leaned back in his chair, his patience completely worn out. He slammed his hand on the desk and called for Unseo. Yoonseo, still under the eye. Table quickly tried to explain that it was all a misunderstanding, but Jungwoo cut her off instantly. "How exactly do you explain sneaking under your boss's desk?" he asked coldly. With a weak voice, Yoonseo muttered, "I really had a reason." Jungwoo wasn't interested in hearing it. Annoyed, he simply ordered her to get out. From the slipper incident to letting her stay at his place, he thought he had been considerate enough. And yet, she still managed to create another ridiculous situation. Even if Hyunwoo was her friend, there had to be limits. Still sitting under the desk, Yoonseo said nothing, realizing just how much had happened and how upside down her life had become. Jungwoo, mistaking her silence for defiance, narrowed his eyes. "Are you protesting now?" Instead of answering, Yoonseo hesitantly tugged on the fabric of his pants and whispered, "I was under here for too long. My legs are numb. Can you help me out?" Jungwoo was speechless. Laughter echoed through the room as Yoonseo recounted the story to Hyunwoo. He laughed even harder when he heard how his normally composed brother had lost his patience. "You actually managed to get under his skin." "Even I couldn't do that," Yoonseo sighed, unable to be mad. Jungwoo had been right after all. There was no point in arguing back. But after everything that had happened in the past few days, she felt so embarrassed that she seriously considered quitting her job and leaving the city. Sensing her distress, Hyunwoo reached out to comfort her, but then he paused, realizing that she actually had a solid reason to leave. Even so, he tried to ease her worries, sitting her down in front of him. "Here," he said, pulling out a relief patch. "For your neck pain." Yoonseo was skeptical but eventually agreed. She moved her hair aside and loosened her shirt slightly to expose the back of her neck. Hyunwoo hesitated, seeing her this made him unexpectedly flustered and his cheeks turned red. "Hyunwoo!" Yoonseo called, pulling him from his thoughts. Quickly shaking it off, he applied the patch to her skin. Then with a teasing smirk, he said, "You know, I still haven't gotten paid for my services." Yoonseo immediately glared at him. "I never asked for a patch. This was your idea." Back at the office, Jungwoo sat at his desk, his eyes landing on a small note and a box of cookies. He picked up the note and read it, realizing that Yoonseo had left it as an apology for the drunken night out. Holding the box of chocolates in his hands, he let out a small, amused smile. "Hun Yoonseo, you really are a strange one. At the office, Yoonseo sat at her desk, fingers tapping absent-mindedly. A deep sigh left her lips. How long had it been since she last felt this sense of calm at work? Yet, despite the quiet, her mind was anything but peaceful. Her thoughts swirled. Around the last 2 days, so much had happened in such a short time, and she was still struggling to process it all. Yoonseo? The director is asking for you in his office? Her body tensed instantly. Of course, just when she thought she could avoid him today. She forced herself to stand, inhaling slowly to mask her irritation. Her footsteps felt heavier than usual as she made her way to his office. The moment she stepped inside, her heart skipped a beat. I want you to come with me to Jeju Island, he said, his tone neutral, yet laced with something she couldn't quite place. Yoonseo blinked, her mind scrambling to catch up. Excuse me? She managed to say, her voice sharper than intended. Jungwoo turned slightly, his gaze locking onto hers. The development team was supposed to attend the game fair, but they can't. It's an important event, and I need someone reliable. His eyes didn't waver. That's you. You wanted to get on better terms with me, didn't you? Breath caught in her throat. So he hadn't forgotten about that. She clenched her fists at her sides, feeling cornered. Then came the final blow. Are you free this weekend? A mix of frustration and resignation washed over her. Fine, I'll go. That evening, Yoonseo sat across from Hyunwoo at a bar, her drink half finished. Her annoyance hadn't faded. This is insane. He's completely abusing his power as my boss, she blurted, her voice rising. Hyunwoo raised an eyebrow, clearly entertained. You're talking too fast, slow down. What exactly did he say? Yoonseo groaned, gripping her glass tighter. He wants me to go with him to Jeju for a work event. 3 nights, 4 days, over my holiday. Hyunwoo let out a low whistle. Damn. And why you? She hesitated. That question had been nagging at her too. Her mind flashed back to their conversation. The way Jungwoo had smirked, the way he had thrown her own words back at her. He wanted her to prove herself. That much was clear. I don't know, she muttered, feeling oddly unsettled. But I don't have a choice. Hyunwoo frowned. Wait, you're going alone with him? Yoonseo gave a slow nod. His eyes narrowed. And you just agreed? She scoffed, rubbing her temple. Do I look like I had an option? A mischievous grin spread across Hyunwoo's face. Then how about we make plans together? She shot him a look. Why just us two? He shrugged, playing it cool. Just in case you need a backup plan. She rolled her eyes. But deep down, an uneasy feeling lingered. What exactly was she walking into? Yoonseo stood outside a restaurant, umbrella in hand. Her fingers fidgeted with the handle as her mind raced. The trip was happening. No turning back now. Her thoughts were interrupted by an argument nearby. A couple, voices sharp, tension thick. Normally, she wouldn't have paid much attention. But then she saw who it was, Jungwoo, and he wasn't alone. Her stomach churned at the sight of him locked in a heated conversation with a woman who looked both furious and smug. Then, as if sensing her presence, Jungwoo turned, and their eyes met. Before she could process it, he was already walking toward her. She barely had time to react before he smoothly lifted the umbrella, stepping closer. His voice was lower than usual, deliberate. Have you been waiting long, babe? Her body went rigid, her mind short-circuiting. What? Was he drunk? Behind him, the woman scoffed, amusement flickering in her eyes. Babe? She repeated mockingly, before turning her gaze to Yoonseo, sharp, assessing. A girl like this? She's beneath your level, Jungwoo. Yoonseo's chest tightened. Anger flared in her veins, but before she could speak, Jungwoo's voice cut through the tension. Kim Jin-hee. The woman stiffened, her smirk faltering slightly. Jungwoo's eyes were colder, now. Watch what you say. This girl is the one I'm seeing right now. Yoonseo and Jungwoo stood together under the umbrella, both facing Kim Jin-hee. With a firm voice, Jungwoo stated, The woman next to me is someone I'm currently seeing. Jin-hee blinked in disbelief, her lips slightly parted. Your... what? Her expression was a mix of surprise and hurt. Yoonseo turned to Jungwoo, just as stunned. What is this about? What are you doing? Her voice was low but filled with confusion. Jungwoo didn't answer her directly. Instead, he looked at her with a mock-concerned gaze. "Aren't you cold? You should have worn something warmer," he said gently, leaning closer. Then, with a whisper only she could hear, he added, "Come on, help me out here. I helped you, didn't I?" Yoonso hesitated, unsure if she should play along. But before she could respond, Jin-hee scoffed loudly. "If you're going to lie, at least make it believable. Seriously, Jungwoo, her? Why would you date someone like that?" That did it. Annoyed, Yoonseo took a sharp breath and stepped closer to Jungwoo, looping her arm around his. "Oh, I see. You're one of those annoying flies that show up just to ruin the mood," she said sweetly, yet with venom behind every word. Jungwoo looked at her, surprised at how naturally she slipped into the act. Her performance was far better than he expected. "No, wonder you're always in this kind of situation," Yoonseo added with a smirk, glancing up at him. Jin-hee crossed her arms, her tone turning sharp. "Pathetic. You really haven't changed. Wasn't it just recently you invited me to dinner after returning to Korea?" Yoonseo raised an eyebrow. "Wow, you even know his schedule? That's kind of stalkerish." She turned to Jungwoo, her voice playful. "Can we go home now?" "Yeah," Jungwoo said, eyes still locked with Jin-hee's. "That's enough. I'm heading home, with my girlfriend." "You're really going to treat me like this?" Jin-hee shouted, her voice breaking slightly. "Aren't you embarrassed? To bring her home to your family?" Yoonseo didn't miss a beat. "Already met them," she said, smiling brightly. "They love me, always call me sweetheart." It wasn't a complete lie, but the context was definitely twisted. Jin-hee snapped. "She doesn't suit you like I do." Startled by the sudden outburst, Yoonseo instinctively stepped back and half hid behind Jungwoo. Without missing a beat, Jungwoo moved in front of her, his expression cold. "Judging people based on appearances, that's low. You should really give it a rest." Jin-hee, red-faced and humiliated as people around started to glance their way, cursed under her breath and turned on her heel, storming off. Jungwoo sighed, with relief. That was intense. Yoonseo took a few steps back from him, clearly still shaken. "How could you put me in that kind of situation?" Jungwoo chuckled. "You were incredible. You looked like you were enjoying it." She blushed and quickly composed herself, brushing off his comment. "Why didn't you just go along with her? She's pretty. You could have given it a shot." Jungwoo looked at her for a second, then gently held the umbrella over her head. "She's not even close to how pretty you are," he said softly. Yoonseo's cheeks turned bright red. She stared at him, unsure what to say. Then, just as suddenly, Jungwoo leaned back and waved a hand. "Forget I said that. Thanks for helping, by the way," he added. "She's been a real pain these past few days." Not far away, Hyunwoo ended a phone call, glancing toward the scene. "That took longer than expected," he muttered. Meanwhile, Jungwoo grinned, noticing Unseo still red-faced. "Wow, so calling you pretty is all it takes to fluster you like that?" Yunseo glared at him, now visibly annoyed. "You're enjoying this way too much." Later at home, Hyunwoo was pouring coffee. "Want some?" he asked Jungwoo. "Sure," Jungwoo replied. Taking the offered cup, they both sat down on the couch. Hyunwoo took a sip and asked, "Where's Yunseo now?" Jungwoo shrugged. "No idea." "So," Hyunwoo continued, "how's work been?" Jungwoo's expression cooled instantly. "Fine." Hyunwoo watched him carefully, then leaned in. "Earlier today, that scene in the street. Did Yunseo call you there?" Jungwoo shook his head. "No, total coincidence. But the timing was perfect. Ever since I got back, a lot of people have been bothering me, Jin-hee included. When I saw Yunseo, I just went with it." Hyunwoo frowned, trying to make sense of it. "Still, you were kind of harsh. Don't be like that with her. Yunseo's important to me." Jungwoo raised an eyebrow. "You're overreacting." Hyunwoo shook his head. "No, I'm not. Don't forget she's working over the holidays because of you. A business trip during her break? That's stressful as hell." Jungwoo didn't respond. He just stared at the coffee in his hands. After a long pause, he finally spoke. "Maybe I pushed her too far. But if you're this worried, then maybe you're the one going too far. He turned to Hyunwoo. Tell me something. Are you two really just friends? Hyunwoo looks at Jungwoo in silence. Then, with a gentle smile, he says that they're not just friends. They're best friends. Why are you acting like you've never had a best friend before? He asks playfully. Jungwoo freezes like a statue. Hyunwoo, slightly nervous, follows up. Wait, you haven't? Jungwoo takes a sip of his drink and quietly admits, this concept of friendship, it's not exactly familiar to me. Hyunwoo is stunned by the confession. You're acting weird again, he mutters. Who goes on a trip alone with their boss? Annoyed, Jungwoo hands him a paper. You're misunderstanding things again. Hyunwoo glances at the paper and sees it's a business trip plan. Jungwoo explains that even though it falls during the holiday season, employees will be given substitute holidays. With a slight smirk, he admits he left out some details, just to mess with Yunseo a bit. But there's nothing to worry about, he adds. The schedule's so relaxed, it's practically a vacation. It's meant to boost employee morale, that's all. Hyunwoo finally relaxes, feeling a bit silly for overreacting. Jungwoo apologizes for not explaining it properly, but Hyunwoo waves him off. No, I should be the one apologizing for jumping to conclusions. The next morning, the table is covered in various dishes. Hyunwoo's eyes widen. Is today some kind of special occasion? Yunseo shakes her head. I just went to bed early and woke up early, so I made something nice. Hyunwoo raises a brow. You didn't have to go this far. Something simple would have been fine. Yunseo smiles softly. Just eat before it gets cold. Hyunwoo takes a bite, and his eyes light up. Wait, this is amazing. He shifts into reporter mode, asking her about her cooking secrets. Just then, Jungwoo walks in. Looks like you two are having fun early in the morning. He notices the food. Did you make breakfast? Yunseo nods, but seems unsure. I wasn't sure it would suit your taste. Jungwoo tries a bite. She watches him nervously. It's good, he says plainly. Her face brightens instantly, and Jungwoo notices. For a brief moment, he's caught off guard, but quickly returns to his usual self. Eat quickly if you don't want to be late. The three of them sit together, eating and chatting about the food. Hyunwoo, grateful, offers Yunseo a ride to work. She thanks him but politely declines. If someone from the office sees us, it'll just start rumors. Then Jungwoo chimes in. Yunseo's coming with me today. Both Yunseo and Hyunwoo are surprised. Why would I go with you? She asks. Jungwoo responds calmly. We need to discuss the business trip. I don't have time at the office for that. Hyunwoo tries to object, but Yunseo stops him. Thank you, but I want to handle this myself. She nods. Besides, discussing it on the way actually sounds better. Jungwoo takes that as a yes. Hyunwoo still tries to join in, but Jungwoo reminds him of his external meeting today. You even know my schedule now? Hyunwoo jokes. Yunseo teases. Why would you come with us anyway? I just thought you might feel uncomfortable, he admits. But Yunseo reassures him with a smile. We see each other every day. No need to worry. Now sitting in Jungwoo's car, Yunseo starts to feel uneasy. He had said they'd talk about the business trip on the way, but hasn't said a single word since breakfast. She glances at him. Didn't you say we were going to discuss the trip? Jungwoo glances at her amused. You actually believe that? He smirks. It was just an excuse. Relax. There's nothing to talk about. Then why are we going together? She asks, a bit confused. He smirks again. Who knows? What if I just wanted to be with you? Is that not allowed? Yunseo, surprised, thinks Jungwoo is messing with her again. Flustered, she asks what he's talking about. With a smirk on his face, Jungwoo says he was just joking and teases. Did you really believe that? You're surprisingly innocent. He notices her red face and chuckles, asking what she was thinking about. Just as he's about to tease her more, Yunseo suddenly insists he stop the car so she can get out. He sighs and tells her he'll stop, but only if she opens the glove compartment. Curious, Yoonseo opens it and pulls out a thick script. As she flips through it, she realizes it's the character analysis report her team was supposed to be working on. Her eyes widen. "This is our project?" she asks, genuinely surprised by the level of detail. Jungwoo nods casually. He explains that he wanted to do it himself so he could better understand the kind of work his teams are handling. Amused and a little impressed, Yoonseo asks why he didn't just assign it to them instead. Jungwoo shrugs. "Sometimes it's better to get your hands dirty." Yoonseo thanks him warmly and says she'll take it back to her team to apply the insights. But before she can say more, Jungwoo stops her. "Don't tell them it's mine. Just say it was your idea." Caught off guard, Yoonseo blinks. Why? He explains that if the team knew it was his, they might feel pressured to implement every part of it without thinking critically. "It's better if they believe it came from someone on the same level," he says. Yoonseo nods, understanding, but she's still hesitant. "Still, it doesn't feel right. You spent so much time and effort on this. Even if you're busy, you analyzed every character. I can't take credit for that." She looks at him, sincere. "Thank you, really. I appreciate it." Jungwoo, caught off guard by her genuine gratitude, looks away awkwardly and mutters under his breath, "You really are a strange one." In the next scene, Hyunwoo is on the phone, getting ready to leave the house. Speaking to his mother, he reassures her there's nothing to worry about, everything's fine. She reminds him that it's going to rain, so he grabs an umbrella, thinking that he should have gone with Yoonseo and Jungwoo. At the same time, Yoonseo gets a message from Hyunwoo. She smiles, touched that he's thinking about her. He asks if she wants to grab lunch together. Yoonseo hesitates. She's been keeping her distance from Hyunwoo because of the office rumors, but it's been a while. One lunch won't hurt. As Hyunwoo enthusiastically lists possible dishes, one of Yoonseo's colleagues interrupts, suggesting spicy lunch plans instead. Yoonseo politely declines, saying she already has plans. The colleague raises an eyebrow. "Oh, do you have a boyfriend or something?" Flustered, Yoonseo quickly shuts her down. But before the teasing can go further, Jungwoo passes by her desk. He greets everyone. "Enjoy your lunch," but his eyes linger on Yoonseo. Their gazes meet, and it's intense. Startled by the look he gave her, Yoonseo stares down at her phone. Just as she's about to reply to Hyunwoo, another message pops up, this time from Jungwoo. He asks her if she wants to have lunch. Caught between the two messages, Yoonseo stares at her screen, baffled by the timing. Seriously, what's with these two brothers? She thinks, overwhelmed. Faced with a sudden decision, she sighs, gets up from her chair, and begins to walk, typing out her reply as she goes. Outside, the cold wind blew sharply against Yoonseo's skin as she stood in front of the building, shivering slightly while looking down at her phone. She checked the screen, waiting anxiously, until she finally raised her gaze. And there he was. Jungwoo, walking toward her with his usual calm demeanor. As he approached, he casually asked, "Shall we go?" But Yoonseo, standing her ground, quickly responded in a firm voice. She told him that even if he was a workaholic, calling people out during their lunch break just to discuss work matters was completely unacceptable. She crossed her arms, determined to get her point across. Jungwoo couldn't help but smirk at her fiery reaction. Amused, he asked, "Who was the one getting so worked up over a few documents earlier?" Yoonseo fell silent, her confidence faltering. After a few moments of awkward quiet, she glanced up at him and asked in a softer voice, "Are we really going to discuss the exhibition during lunch?" Jungwoo nodded, clearly appreciating her enthusiastic attitude despite everything. Seeing this, Yoonseo's mood lightened a little, and with a playful pout, she demanded that he buy her a delicious lunch to make up for the inconvenience. The two of them began walking, side by side, when suddenly, tiny raindrops started falling from the gray sky. At first, it was just a light drizzle, but within minutes, the rain grew heavier, soaking through their clothes. Laughing breathlessly, they dashed toward the nearest restaurant, dripping wet as they stumbled through the door, trying to catch their breath. Jungwoo, checking his phone with his usual composed expression, informed Yoonseo that they wouldn't be able to go to the place he had originally picked out for lunch. Yoonseo brushed it off with a shrug. There was no point in getting upset over something like this. Smiling, she told him, "It's fine. I'll eat whatever they have here." As she glanced around, she noticed the small restaurant was a cozy soup place. Her smile grew wider as she walked up to the counter and ordered for both of them, without hesitation. Watching her, Jungwoo remarked with a faint smile, "You really know how to stay cheerful, even in situations like this." Yoonseo turned to him, her eyes sparkling, and said, "A smile is the best thing you can wear when things don't go your way." Playfully, she teased him back, encouraging him to try smiling himself for once. But just as she was laughing, she caught the shift in his expression. Confused, she asked if she had said something wrong. Jungwoo's voice turned serious as he told her, "You should cover yourself." Yoonseo blinked, then looked down, and her face flushed bright red. Her shirt had become almost see-through from the rain. Panicking, she stammered, telling him not to look, but before she could embarrass herself further, Jungwoo calmly stood up and took off his coat, draping it over her shoulders. "This should help," he said, his voice low and reassuring. Both of them sat down to eat, steam rising from their bowls of soup, the warmth slowly chasing away the cold. As Yoonseo sipped her soup, she shyly asked Jungwoo if he wasn't cold without his coat. He shook his head and reassured her, "I'm fine. I didn't get as soaked as you did." After a while, Jungwoo glanced at his watch and told Yoonseo she should take a taxi back to the company, as he suddenly remembered another matter he needed to attend to. Meanwhile, back at the company, Hyunwoo was sitting alone in the cafeteria, munching on a sandwich while absent-mindedly thinking about Yoonseo. He realized he hadn't seen her come in for lunch, and as he gazed out the window, he spotted her stepping out of a taxi, her clothes still damp from the rain. Concerned, Hyunwoo immediately rushed over to her. Seeing her disheveled state, he asked if she had gotten caught in the rain. Yoonseo nodded with a small sheepish smile. Seeing her like that, Hyunwoo's expression grew serious. He told her that he was going to speak with his brother, Jungwoo, because it wasn't okay for her to be dragged around like this for work. Flustered, Yoonseo tried to stop him, explaining that Jungwoo had already nagged her about it during lunch. Hyunwoo froze mid-bite. He looked up from his phone, staring at her. "Wait, the person you had lunch with was Jungwoo?" he asked, disbelief coloring his voice. Yoonseo smiled and nodded, casually explaining that they had to discuss the exhibition and time was tight. As they were talking, Jungwoo himself approached, carrying a paper bag. Calmly, he called out to Yoonseo, handing her the bag. Inside were dry clothes. Yoonseo, taken aback and embarrassed, asked why he had gone through the trouble of buying her a spare set of clothes. Jungwoo, in his usual blunt but caring way, asked her, "Were you planning to enter the meeting room looking like that?" Meeting her eyes with a steady gaze, he handed over the bag and told her to change quickly, and also not to forget returning his coat later. Yoonseo nodded, cheeks flushed from both the cold and the situation, while Jungwoo simply turned and walked away, leaving her standing there with the bag clutched to her chest. Hyunwoo watched the entire scene unfold silently. His eyes shifted between his brother's retreating figure and Yoonseo, who stood holding the bag tightly. As Yoonseo hugged the bag closer, she recalled that Jungwoo had mentioned having something else to do earlier, and now it all made sense. Blushing slightly, she whispered under her breath, a soft smile forming on her lips. Still, that was really nice of him. The rain tapped gently against the windows, a steady, melancholic rhythm that filled the otherwise silent room. Yoonseo lay curled under the covers, feeling the dull ache of sickness settle deeper into her bones. Her mind wandered back to earlier, that day, to how she had gotten caught in the storm, completely sealed by the cold, praying quietly that she wouldn't come down with a fever. The sharp buzz of her phone dragged her back to the present. She glanced at the screen, blinking in confusion when she saw Jungwoo's name flashing. What could he want at this hour? She answered hesitantly, "Yoonseo, about the meeting documents. Did you upload them?" Jungwoo's voice came through the line, slightly rushed. Her heart skipped. I finished them at work," she said, uncertainty creeping into her tone. But as Jungwoo explained that the files were missing, Yoonseo's confusion deepened. She thought back, her mind foggy, to when she left the office earlier, not feeling quite herself. You didn't upload it, did you? Jungwoo asked again. Realizing her mistake, Yunseo apologized immediately. Jungwoo sighed, a note of irritation slipping into his voice, but he quickly masked it. Even if it wasn't perfect, you should have uploaded it, he reminded her gently. Yunseo, guilt-ridden, offered to return to the office and retrieve the USB. Jungwoo protested, insisting he could handle it himself, but Yunseo had already thrown on a jacket. It's my mistake. I'll take care of it, she said firmly, before hanging up. The office was dimly lit when Yunseo stumbled back in. Her steps were shaky, her body betraying her with each movement. She found the USB still plugged into her computer. She hadn't even removed it. Relief washed over her for a brief second as she yanked it free. But the moment she turned to leave, the world spun violently around her. Her legs gave out. Yunseo collapsed to the cold, hard floor. Her vision blurred. Her arms felt like lead as she desperately tried to reach her purse, where her phone lay silent. A broken whisper escaped her lips. Help. Darkness swallowed her whole. The next thing she knew, she was blinking awake to bright, sterile lights. The smell of antiseptic filled her nostrils. Confused, she shifted her gaze, and there he was. Jungwoo, sitting beside her bed, concern etched deep into his features. You're awake, he said softly. Yunso's voice was weak, almost childlike. Where am I? What happened? Jungwoo leaned forward, his voice laced with frustration and worry. You collapsed at the office, he said. When I found you, you had a fever over 40 degrees. Yunseo's eyes widened in shock. What were you thinking, wandering around like that? He scolded gently. If I hadn't followed you, you could have been seriously hurt. Tears prickled at the corners of her eyes. I didn't want to cause more trouble, she whispered, but Jungwoo cut her off, his voice stern but caring. So what if you cause a little trouble? He said. You're more important than a few inconveniences. When you're struggling, you need to lean on others. You can't carry everything alone. His words struck a deep, raw place inside her. Yunseo gripped the blanket tightly, her voice cracking. But I have to look strong, she said, tears slipping down her cheeks. I have no family to run to. No home of my own. The vulnerability in her voice shattered something inside Jungwoo. He reached out, wiping the tears from her face with a tenderness that broke down the last of her defenses. You're not alone, he whispered. You have Hyunwoo. And you have me too. Yunseo sobbed quietly, letting herself finally be weak, letting herself finally be seen. Later, as Jungwoo left her hospital room, the hallway light flickered faintly overhead. Hyunwoo, breathless from running, rushed up to him. How is she? He demanded, panic and anger flashing in his eyes. Jungwoo put a finger to his lips, signaling him to lower his voice. She just fell asleep. She's exhausted. Don't wake her, Jungwoo said softly. Hyunwoo, fists clenched, couldn't hide the turmoil brewing inside him. How sick was she to end up like this? He asked through gritted teeth. Jungwoo opened his mouth to explain, but Hyunwoo's mind was already racing, his own conclusions burning hotter than any fever. Was it you? He hissed. Did you make her go back to the office? Jungwoo, trying to keep calm, motioned for them to step outside, but Hyunwoo's anger exploded. She's not. Someone you can treat however you want, he shouted, shoving past Jungwoo. Irritated, Jungwoo grabbed Hyunwoo by the collar, yanking him back. You always lose your damn mind when it comes to Yunseo, he snapped. Hyunwoo stared at him, breathing heavily, then threw the real question into the air like a thunderclap. Do you like her? Jungwoo froze. The anger drained from the hallway, leaving behind a heavy, painful silence. Hyunwoo, voice low but burning with emotion, asked again, Are you in love with Yunseo? In the hallway, Jungwoo held Hyunwoo by his jacket, his mind drifting through everything that had happened. With a tight expression, Jungwoo spoke calmly, yet firmly. Hyunwoo, I've seen the way you look at Yunseo, the way you treat her, and that's not how someone treats just a friend. He paused, his grip tightening slightly. But given the situation she's in, I think you need to give her space. The last thing she needs right now is the weight of someone else's emotions. What she needs is stability, not the burden of someone's desire. Hyunwoo clenched his fists, his frustration boiling over. And what about you? He shot back. Aren't you the one who's suddenly grown so interested in her? Spending time with her like you've got all the right in the world? His voice rose, sharp with anger. You shouldn't. Not you, Cha Jungwoo. You don't even care about people around you. You're selfish and always have been. With that, Hyunwoo shoved Jungwoo aside and stormed toward Yoonseo's hospital room. But Jungwoo's voice stopped him in his tracks. I've never treated Yoonso carelessly, not like you think. Hyunwoo, now slightly calmer, glanced back over his shoulder. Good, he said coldly, because if you had, I might have hit you. Turning fully, he stared at Jungwoo. From now on, I don't trust you around her. Not anymore. A few days later, at home, Yoonso sat on her bed, her suitcase by her side as she quietly sighed. She looked down at the half-packed luggage. At least the fever's gone before the trip, she murmured to herself. Her hand brushed against the documents beside her. Exhibition. Materials she'd taken earlier to review. At first, she hadn't wanted to go at all, but now, she found herself genuinely looking forward to it. Her thoughts wandered, flashing back to when she cried in Jungwoo's arms at the hospital. Her cheeks flushed instantly, and she quickly pressed the documents against her face. We're not even that close, she muttered, flustered. This is so weird. Why did that even happen? Then, as if trying to justify it to herself, she nodded. Fever messes with your head anyway. That's all it was. Still, as she laid down to sleep, the thoughts from that day lingered, refusing to fade. The next morning, Yoonso stepped out of her room with the suitcase in hand, frowning at the unexpected weight. It feels heavier than I thought. A voice called out, Yoonseo! Looking up, she saw Hyunwoo on the staircase, waving and offering a bright, Good morning! Morning, she replied with a soft smile. As Hyunwoo reached the floor, he eyed her suitcase. Heading out already? Let me carry that for you. Yoonseo hesitated. Are you sure? It's kind of heavy. Hyunwoo grinned as he took it from her hands with ease. It's practically a feather. Watching him, Onseo blinked in surprise. Was Hyunwoo always this strong? She wondered aloud. He used to be no match for me when we were kids. As she followed him down the stairs, she asked, Is Jungwoo ready yet? Hyunwoo, still holding the suitcase, responded flatly, Probably. His tone made her pause. Why do you sound like that? Are you upset with Jungwoo or something? He brushed it off quickly, but Yoonseo wasn't convinced. She remembered how cold they'd both been to each other since the hospital. Did you two have a fight? She asked cautiously. Again, Hyunwoo shrugged. Fights are for kids. Don't worry about it. As he set the suitcase down near the front door, Yoonseo thanked him again. Want some coffee before we go? He offered. But before she could answer, her eyes caught two more suitcases near the door. Wow. Jungwoo's bringing a lot for this trip, she commented, but just as she said it, Hyunwoo casually peeked from the hallway. One of those is mine. Yoonseo turned toward him, confused. Wait. What? Hyunwoo repeated himself, smiling. I'm going to Jeju too. Suddenly, a voice echoed through the room. That's the first I'm hearing about that. Yoonseo spun around as Jungwoo stepped in, his expression unreadable. With a firm tone, Jungwoo looked at Hyunwoo and asked, Are you serious? Hyunwoo and Jungwoo stood face to face, locked in a silent standoff. Their eyes met with intensity, each trying to gauge the other's intentions without saying much. Jungwoo finally broke the silence, his voice low but firm. Are you really going through with this? Are you serious? Hyunwoo didn't hesitate. He gave a small nod. I am. And honestly, you could benefit from going too. He paused, then added, I don't know why, but I have this feeling that I should be there. Jungwoo's gaze didn't waver, but he said nothing. The tension between them only grew heavier, almost palpable in the air. Yoonseo, standing nearby, felt her heart race. She couldn't understand what was happening, but the unspoken animosity between the two men was undeniable. Her eyes darted, back and forth as the atmosphere thickened. Then out of nowhere, Jungwoo smirked. "If you want to go, then go," he said casually, though his voice held an unmistakable edge. "If you're both ready, then hurry up. If you're late, I'll leave without you." Without waiting for a response, he turned and walked out of the room. The three of them made their way toward the car. As they approached, Jungwoo turned to Eun-seo. "You should sit in the front." Hyunwoo immediately reacted, about to protest. But before he could say a word, Jungwoo shot him a cold glance. "I need to discuss fare-related matters with her," Jungwoo said firmly. "So she'll sit in front." Hyunwoo stepped forward, voice tense. "That's not necessary." But Jungwoo cut him off and stepped directly in front of him, his tone strict. "You joined us at the last minute. Are you planning to interfere with work, too?" Their standoff deepened, each standing tall, neither willing to back down. Eun-seo, overwhelmed by the growing hostility, raised her voice. "Enough! Both of you can sit in the front. I'll take the back seat alone." That seemed to dissolve the immediate tension, but the silence that followed on the drive to the airport was heavy. Eun-seo felt the weight of every unspoken word and cold glance. By the time they arrived, she felt slightly sick from the strain of the atmosphere. As they stepped out of the vehicle, a voice called her name. She looked up and saw the rest of the team waiting near the airport entrance. Ji-young smiled and waved. "Did you guys come together?" Before Eun-seo could respond, Jungwoo stepped forward smoothly. "Yes. Eun-seo's from the same neighborhood. It made sense." Eun-seo gave a small smile, trying to shake off the discomfort from earlier. "Are all of you going on the business trip?" Ji-young's eyes sparkled. "Of course. Actually, it was Jungwoo's idea." Hyunwoo, standing slightly behind, smiled faintly as he watched the team's enthusiasm. "Well, the schedule isn't too tight. We might have some time for ourselves on the island." Jungwoo's sharp gaze flicked toward him. "This isn't a vacation." Ji-young, still riding on the idea, laughed brightly. "Still, a little break might be good for everyone's morale, don't you think?" Hyunwoo chuckled and turned to Doim. "Eun-seo, what do you think?" Eun-seo hesitated. She wasn't sure what the right answer was, especially not between these two. As she glanced at Hyunwoo, she noticed something different. Something about him today felt off. Just then, the manager chimed in. "Udo Island's famous for its ice cream and beaches." That small detail was enough to sway Eun-seo's uncertainty. "We should probably board now," Jungwoo said suddenly, pulling everyone back to the present. "We'll adjust the schedule once we're on the island." The tension eased slightly, and smiles returned to some faces as they walked toward the gate. On the plane, Eun-seo sat by the window, lost in thought. Her mind wandered despite the buzz of passengers around her. Hyunwoo approached from behind. "Are you feeling okay?" She nodded softly. "I'm fine." Then, turning to Jungwoo, Hyunwoo asked, "Do you want to switch seats?" Irritated, Jungwoo didn't even look at him. "For the last time, no, I'm not switching seats." Hyunwoo's concern remained. "Eun-seo, did you take your motion sickness pills?" "I did," she said quickly, almost trying to shoo him away. "Now go sit down. The plane's about to take off." Reluctantly, Hyunwoo walked away, but not before casting one last glance at Jungwoo. Jungwoo sighed. "He's awfully attentive today." Eun-seo gave a small shrug. "I get nervous on planes. He's just looking out for me." But her voice was quiet, and her hands were trembling slightly as she gripped the armrests. As the plane taxied down the runway, her thoughts slipped away. Suddenly, she was back in the hospital. That day when everything had felt like it might fall apart. When fear clawed at her from the inside out. She remembered being unable to speak, unable to even move. And yet, there he was. Jungwoo, holding her hand. "Hey," he had said, his voice gentle. "If you feel uneasy, just tell me." His hand had tightened around hers. "You can lean on me anytime." As the plane landed, Hyunwoo quickly made his way back to Eun-seo. But the moment he saw her face, he noticed something was off. Her expression was quieter than usual, like something inside her had shifted. At the port, Ji-young cheerfully posed for a photo with the manager, proudly holding the famous Udo peanut ice cream in one hand. Hyunwoo, hovering behind Eun-seo like a shadow, nudged her playfully. "Come on, just one bite," he asked with a grin. Eun-seo rolled her eyes, clearly annoyed. "You're worse than a kid." Still, she relented and offered him a spoonful. But just as she raised the spoon, Jungwoo leaned in and snatched it with his mouth, catching Eun-seo completely off guard. "What a—" Hyunwoo's smile disappeared instantly, replaced by a scowl. "Seriously? What's your problem?" Another stare-down began. Cold, silent, electric. The air between them tightened, sharp enough to cut. Eun-seo, fed up, stepped back with a sigh. Ji-young, blissfully unaware of the tension, watched them curiously. Wow, they must be really into planning for the expo. Jungwoo broke eye contact first, pointing to Hyunwoo's pocket. "You've got a call." Irritated, Hyunwoo pulled out his phone. As he answered, Jungwoo allowed himself a small, satisfied smile. The rest of the group stood by, watching in awkward silence. Sensing the thickening tension, Eun-seo grabbed Jungwoo's arm. "Let's go talk. Privately." Walking along the beach, Eun-seo broke the silence first. "What's going on between you two?" Jungwoo stayed quiet. "I'm serious. I don't know what happened, but I can't pretend not to notice it anymore." Still, nothing. Eun-seo turned toward the ocean, its waves rolling steadily onto the shore. "It's beautiful. So close, yet it feels far away." Jungwoo finally spoke. "Do you like the ocean?" "I do," she said softly. "I've barely traveled, so I never had many chances to see it." She turned to him. "Does it look different in other countries?" Jungwoo shook his head. "It's mostly the same." Eun-seo hesitated. "Were you lonely in the US?" He paused, thoughtful. "Not really. I don't dwell on things like that. I was busy. Always working." A breeze swept across Eun-seo's face, ruffling her hair. "I used to think I was fine being alone," she confessed. "But lately, I realized I've been lonely for a while now." She looked at him, voice trembling. "I don't know if you'll believe me, but I don't dislike you. You made me uncomfortable at times, sure. But looking back, I'm grateful." She looked down at the sand. "When you said I'm not alone, that meant something to me. So, thank you." Jungwoo opened his mouth to respond, but Eun-seo pulled out her phone and held it out to him. "Can you take a picture of me?" He smiled faintly and lifted the phone. "Ready? Go ahead." He snapped a few shots as she posed with the sun setting behind her. When he looked down at the screen, he smiled without realizing it. Eun-seo stepped over. "Let me see," she gasped. "That's actually amazing. It's like a life shot." "You're welcome," Jungwoo said dryly. "Is there anything you're bad at?" she teased. "Seriously?" He raised a brow. "So all this time you just thought I was annoying?" "Maybe a little," she admitted with a laugh. As they continued walking, Jungwoo warned, "Careful where you step. The rocks." But before he could finish, Eun-seo tripped. Back at the port, the sun was dipping into the horizon. Hyunwoo stood with his phone pressed to his ear, eyes scanning the area. He spotted Ji-young and the manager, laughing about something. "Did you guys have fun?" he asked. Ji-young giggled. "You missed it. A seagull stole the team leader's ice cream." Hyunwoo chuckled, but his eyes darted around. Something was missing. "Where's Jungwoo and Eun-seo?" the manager replied. "They haven't come back yet." Hyunwoo's expression changed instantly. He turned and started heading for the exit, but security blocked him. "Sorry, sir. You can't leave right now." Meanwhile, at the mole, Eun-seo sat drenched in seawater, hugging her knees. Jungwoo stood nearby, checking the ferry schedule. "That was the last boat for today," he said, voice calm but tired. Eun-seo shook her head. "I'm so stupid. Why did I even try?" She stared at the wet sand beneath her, frustration welling up. "Now I've dragged you into this too." Jungwoo looked at her, then offered a hand. "Get up. If we catch the first boat in the morning, we'll still make it to the expo." She took his hand. Later, they arrived at a small local motel. An elderly woman greeted them with a warm but sheepish smile. "I'm afraid there's only one room left." Yunseo froze. Jungwoo raised an eyebrow. The silence between them was louder than the waves. Inside a dimly lit motel room, Yunseo looked around awkwardly before asking, "Do we really have to sleep here? Together?" Jungwoo, soaked from the rain and visibly exhausted, replied plainly that this was the only place available on the island for the night. Her eyes widened with embarrassment when she noticed there was only one blanket. "How is there just one?" she stammered. Jungwoo shrugged, explaining there weren't any extras. "What's the big deal?" he asked. "We've already been living under the same roof." But Yunseo, her face flushing, argued this was completely different. Without much more to say, Jungwoo stepped out of the room to take a shower, casually telling her she was free to look for another place if she didn't like it. Time passed. Yunseo now sat in the bathtub, reflecting on how things escalated to this point. Her thoughts spiraled into various what-if scenarios about their relationship. Her cheeks burned with embarrassment just imagining it. Trying to snap out of it, she smacked her own face and took a deep breath. A sudden knock on the door startled her. Jungwoo's voice came through, saying he was leaving her some clothes. "These are the only things people wear around here," he added, "so don't be embarrassed." Yunseo hesitated, wondering what kind of outfit he could have brought. Her mind wandered to ridiculous and sultry imaginations that made her even more flustered. Mentally, she wasn't prepared for this kind of situation. Eventually, she stepped out, dressed in overly touristy clothes, her tone almost offensive. "Isn't this a bit much?" she asked Jungwoo, who couldn't help but burst into laughter. "This style doesn't suit you at all," she added, laughing with him. Later, they sat together on the porch. Jungwoo offered her a beer, asking if she wanted to drink. Yunseo nodded. "A cold beer really is the best after a day like this," she agreed. Just as she raised the can, a chilly breeze swept through, making them both pause and shiver. Now wrapped in a blanket, Yunseo looked down at her drink. She confessed that she wasn't usually like this. "But when I'm with you, I always mess things up," she admitted softly. Her voice carried guilt as she said she knew it probably sounded like an excuse and wouldn't blame him if he hated her. Jungwoo looked at her. "When did I ever say I hated you?" he asked. He admitted that, yes, her first impression wasn't great, and yes, she'd caused her share of accidents. But he never disliked her. In fact, he kind of liked her. Yunseo blinked, unsure if he was teasing again. She started rambling about how he always jokes with her, completely killing the mood. Her words slurred, clearly drunk. Jungwoo just smiled softly, realizing how far gone she was. Gently, he picked her up and carried her back inside. As he laid her down on the futon, he muttered to himself, "Is this what they mean when someone's so drunk they wouldn't even know they were carried off?" But Yunseo, half asleep, mumbled back, "I can hear you, you know. What do you take me for?" Jungwoo sighed and told her to at least cover up properly. Yet before he could leave, she grabbed his hand. "Aren't you sleeping too?" she asked. Jungwoo looked to the side, unsure. "I'll figure something out, don't worry." But Yunseo didn't let go. Pulling him toward the bed, she asked him seriously, "Where are you going to sleep when there's only one pillow, one blanket?" Now hovering above her, he looked down at her flushed, expectant face. Leaning in close, he whispered, "You really are the strange one." When Yunseo opened her eyes, it was with a jolt. The memory of the night before came crashing back. Jungwoo was right beside her, still asleep. Flustered, she pulled the blanket up to her chin. Jungwoo, noticing her movement, smiled. "You sure have a lot of energy in the morning?" Later, Yunseo asked to borrow his phone, explaining she'd lost hers. But when she tried to turn it on, it didn't work. Jungwoo mentioned that both their phones had fallen into the water and hoped they'd dry out, but it looked like hers was done for. Putting on his coat, he told her he'd go check the ferry schedule and to get ready to leave as soon as possible. Waiting on the porch, Yunseo wondered why he was taking so long. Suddenly, she felt a vibration in her hand. It was the phone, miraculously working. And on the screen, a call from Hyunwoo. She answered. On the other end was Hyunwoo, frustrated, demanding an explanation. Once he paused, Yunseo finally spoke. "It's me," she said, "and we're okay. But you won't believe what happened." After her short summary, Hyunwoo just sighed with relief. "I'm glad you're both okay." Just then, Jungwoo returned. Yunseo asked why he'd taken so long. Jungwoo told her to hurry and pack. If they left right now, they could still catch a ferry. As she wrapped up the call with Hyunwoo, she told him they'd arrive in about an hour. He confirmed that he and the rest of the team would wait for them at the port. Jungwoo blinked in surprise as Yunseo told him the phone had started working again. She began explaining how worried Hyunwoo was and how close the two of them were. But before she could finish, Jungwoo stepped forward, snatched the phone from her hand and said coldly, "Don't waste your energy. We'll be late." Yunseo stared at him, worried. "Can you just make up with him already?" she asked quietly. "It's really been bothering me." When they arrived at the port, Ji-young ran up to Yunseo with open arms and pulled her into a hug. "I couldn't even sleep last night worrying about you," she cried. The manager teased her, telling her to at least wipe the pillow marks off her face first. The team leader approached Jungwoo with a relieved expression, glad they were safe. Jungwoo apologized, saying their mishap had delayed everything. Hyunwoo just brushed it off. "It was an accident," he said. "We're behind schedule, but we can still salvage a lot if we leave now." Later that evening, the whole group gathered at a restaurant. They drank and talked, reminiscing about the strange turn their trip had taken. Manager Lee pestered Ji-young about how she knew about the game, and Ji-young threw the same question back at her. As the two argued playfully, Yunseo laughed, but her eyes fell on Hyunwoo, sitting quietly, head bowed over a raised glass. "Is everyone already drunk?" he asked. Yunseo blinked. It was the first time she'd seen him drunk. She glanced toward Jungwoo, considering whether this was the moment to mend things between them, but he didn't seem to catch on. Their team leader excused himself to take a call from his wife. Manager Lee remarked how close they seemed. Meanwhile, Ji-young, tipsy and curious, leaned over to Hyunwoo. "What kind of women do you like? Do you even have a girlfriend?" Lee quickly tried to hush her, saying she was drunk. Yunseo laughed it off, telling them that Hyunwoo didn't have anyone, at least not as far as she knew. "We've been friends for years. He never mentioned anyone." Then she turned to Jungwoo. "What about you? Anyone special?" Jungwoo gave a faint smile. "I'm drunk, so—" Before he could finish, Ji-young stood up, interrupting. "I asked Hyunwoo this once before, and he dodged the question. But tonight, I'm getting an answer." Yunseo chuckled. "He really doesn't have anyone right now." But Ji-young smirked. "What if you just don't know?" Yunseo blinked. "What do you mean?" And finally, Hyunwoo, now composed, looked at them all and spoke. "There is someone I like. From the very beginning. Until now. My first love." The moment the news broke, it sent shockwaves through the room. Ji-young slammed her hand on the table, wide-eyed. "What?" she shouted. The other leaned in, bubbling with curiosity. "Really? Who is it?" Her eyes sparkled. "Where did you meet her? What's she like? Are you getting married?" Meanwhile, Hyunwoo in question blushed slightly, trying to hold his ground. Calm down," he muttered, clearly stalling. The entire room fell silent as everyone stared at him. "About that," he started, only to smirk and lean back. "It's obvious that it's a secret." Yunseo tilted her head with a playful smile. "Director Cha Hyunwoo, you weren't just dodging the question, were you?" He grinned. "This is why sharp employees are—" Before he could finish, laughter erupted all around. With a warm smile and slight blush, she raised her glass. "Should we do another toast?" Hyunwoo, across the table, lifted his mug. "Cheers." His tone was light, but he didn't deny anything. Later that night, under the dark sky, the group headed home. Hyunwoo lagged behind, hand on his forehead. I probably drank too much." "It's been a while," a voice called out. "Hey, Cha Hyunwoo." Startled, he turned. She waved at him with a teasing grin. "You okay? How much did you drink?" He smiled sheepishly. Too much. I'm only human, you know? She narrowed her eyes. Since when are you just a regular person? In her mind, he was the legendary drinker, Cha Hyunwoo with the iron liver. To be honest, I'm not strong. You just always got drunk first. Her eyes widened. And when I do drink too much, he stopped himself. Never mind. Determined, she raised a fist. Fine. I'll carry you back to the lodge. Lean on me. I'm not that drunk, he insisted, stepping out boldly. See? Walking just fine. She stared. Wow, so fine you'll walk into the afterlife. Rushing up, she grabbed his arm. Are you trying to get hit here in Jeju? Come back. He didn't respond. Okay. As they walked side by side, she glanced at him. You're not nauseous? I'm fine, but she sensed something more. Did something happen? She asked. It's not like you to drink this much. Did you fight with someone? She offered a soft smile. You can talk to me, you know. He paused, staring ahead. I just wanted to get drunk tonight. Really? She asked, surprised. Everyone has days like that? But her eyes narrowed. What about earlier, when you said, there's someone you like? Hyunwoo looked at her with a smirk. Why? Curious? Of course, she shot. Back. He took a slow step toward her. What do you think? Me? Why ask me? Just curious, he said softly. He looked at her, his voice trembling. Does it sound like an excuse? He asked. Or does it sound real? She hesitated. His gaze dropped. Honestly, I'm not sure. Memories of their childhood flashed. Laughing, carefree days. We've been together since we were young. I thought I knew everything about you. But lately, she added, I'm starting to think I didn't. Hyunwoo reached out, gently. It's okay, even if you didn't know. I didn't really know myself either. She stood frozen. Huh? Just then, a hand touched her shoulder. She turned. Jungwoo. Without a word, he pulled her to his side. Jungwoo? He looked at Hyunwoo, calm. Go ahead. I'll take care of Hyunwoo. Oh, really? Yeah, we'll talk and catch up. Yunseo hesitated. Talk? Are they making up? Okay. Take your time then, she called before walking away. Silence fell between the two men. Huh? Talk? Are you serious? Hyunwoo scoffed. There's nothing to talk about. Jungwoo stood still. Let's make up. Hyunwoo blinked. What? Don't get me wrong. I'm not sorry, Jungwoo said. But we should stop making it obvious. Han Onseo's worried. Onseo? Yeah, she's been anxious. It makes me feel bad just watching her. Hyunwoo remembered her worried glances, her words. You can talk to me? Come to think of it. He closed his eyes for a moment. All right, for now. At that moment, Yunseo rejoined her friends. Why are you only coming now? Oh, I'm sorry, she giggled. She smiled brightly, but in her eyes, something else shimmered. Hope? Or maybe uncertainty. From a distance, Hyunwoo watched her laugh, full of life. Good grief, he muttered. Jungwoo stood beside him. Let's go. There's still work left to do. As they walked away, a single close-up of Hyunwoo's eye revealed something more, unspoken, but deeply felt. Something had shifted.